Imagine you have an idea. Not just any idea, an idea that consumes you, that keeps you awake, that makes you look at your day job and think, this isn't what I should be doing. You believe in this idea with everything you have, and everyone around you thinks you're insane.
The bank thinks you're crazy. Your boss thinks you're crazy. The numbers in your bank account definitely think you're crazy. Now tell me, do you quit or do you keep going? That's exactly the question Phil Knight had to answer, dozens of times for over 10 years. And depending on how you answer that question about your own life, the story you're about to hear is going to affect you in very different ways. 1964, Portland, Oregon. Phil Knight is sitting in the driver's seat of his car outside a bank. He's just been rejected again. $83 in his account, a debt he can't pay, and a company that basically exists in the trunk of his car and the stubbornness of his mind. The bank doesn't believe in him, never has. He starts the car and drives away, not because he quit, but because he has work to do. To understand how Phil Knight got to that bank and what happened after, you need to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of Nike, the beginning of Phil. Because Nike wasn't born from a business insight, it was born from an obsession. Phil grew up in Portland as a quiet, introverted kid who didn't stand out anywhere except on a running track. When he ran, something changed in him, an intensity that didn't show up anywhere else in his life. Like movement was the only language he spoke fluently. At the University of Oregon, he trained under Bill Bowerman, and if you don't know that name, remember it, because Bowerman is going to show up at crucial moments in this story. Bowerman was obsessed with one thing. Shoes were destroying American runners. He'd take apart every pair he could get his hands on, throw the pieces on a table, and stare for hours, looking for a way to cut weight, improve grip, gain tenths of a second. He believed Adidas and Puma dominated the market, not because they were the best, but because nobody had tried to do it differently. Phil absorbed all of this. And when he went to Stanford for his MBA, he wrote a paper that most professors probably skimmed and filed away. The idea was simple and completely absurd. What if Japanese running shoes could do to the American market what Japanese cameras did to the German Leica? Come from outside with a better product, lower price, and dethrone the leader everyone thought was untouchable. It was academic theory. Phil decided to test it in real life. 1962. Phil Knight buys a plane ticket to Japan. No job, no company, no concrete plan. Just that idea and the courage, or insanity, to act like it was already real. In Japan, he gets a meeting with Onitsuka Tire, a small shoe manufacturer, excellent products, zero presence in the United States. The executives sit at the table. They look at this young American and ask the obvious question. What company do you represent? Phil opens his mouth and invents. Blue Ribbon Sports, he says, with a calm of someone representing a company that's existed for decades. Blue Ribbon Sports didn't exist, had never existed. It was born in that second, in that room, in Japan. For almost 10 years, Phil Knight lived a double life. By day, suit, tie, office, spreadsheets, accountant. By night and weekends, boxes of shoes in the trunk, track meets selling pair by pair, runner by runner, personally. In his first year, he sold $8,000. To most people, nothing. To Phil, confirmation of everything he believed. Bowerman showed up with the answer one Sunday morning. He was in the kitchen, looking at his wife's waffle iron, and had an idea. He poured liquid rubber into the machine, waited for it to dry, pulled the sole out. It was lighter, had more grip. It worked. The waffle sole became Nike's signature. Runners who tried it didn't want anything else. But what transformed Nike from a good shoe company into a cultural force was a bet. 1972. Olympic trials in Eugene, Oregon. A 21-year-old named Steve Prefontaine stepped onto the track wearing Nikes. Pre wasn't just a runner, he was a phenomenon. arrogant, magnetic, absolutely uncontrollable. He ran from the front, from the first meter, never waited for the finish to accelerate, never played it safe. It looked like he was proving something every time he crossed a finish line.
In 1984, a name came to him, Michael Jordan. 21 years old, hasn't played a single NBA game yet. Jordan wanted Adidas, always wanted it, grew up with Adidas. But Adidas didn't make a good enough offer. Nike did. And the offer wasn't just money, it was something no athlete had ever received before. A shoe with his own name, an exclusive line, profit participation. Jordan still didn't want to go. His mother forced him to take the flight to Portland. At the meeting, Nike presented everything. The deal was made.
Then came the detail Nike didn't plan. The NBA banned the Air Jordan 1, said the colors violated the uniform code. Nike could have backed down, could have changed the design. Instead, they paid the fine. Every game, the entire season, and communicated to the world without saying a word. These shoes are so different, so bold, that the league itself doesn't want you wearing them. The Air Jordan 1 launched in 1985 with a projection of $3 million in sales for the first year. It sold $126 million. Phil Knight stepped down as Nike's president in 2016. By that point, the company was worth over $32 billion. It employed 79,000 people worldwide. The swoosh, that $35 logo, was one of the most recognized symbols in human history. But if you look at this story and only see the success, you're missing the point. Because the real story isn't about the billion, it's about what came before the billion. It's about the man who invented a company in a meeting room in Japan because he had no other option, who sold shoes from his trunk for years while every bank in town said no, who said no when logic said to accept, who bet everything when the sensible thing was to back down. Phil Knight wasn't the smartest person in the room. He wasn't the most charismatic. He wasn't the one with the least fear. He was simply the one who didn't stop.
And remember the question from the beginning? You have an idea that consumes you. Everyone around you thinks it's crazy. The bank says no. The numbers say no. Do you quit or do you keep going? Phil Knight answered that question dozens of times, always the same way. And the world we live in today, the shoes you wear, the way we think about athletes, about brands, about what a company can represent, was built because of those answers. Stubbornness with direction. It's the only thing all great stories have in common. If this story told you something, subscribe. Every week we tell the stories of the people who built the world we live in, the ones hidden behind the numbers and logos you see every day without knowing what it cost to get there. The next one is even better.